Welcome everyone to another Diverse Careers event. Today we're going to be talking all about assessment centres, how to manage your nerves, how to pass assessment centres, and ultimately get that job that you're all looking for. So thanks very much for everyone who's joined already. There's going to be lots of people joining throughout the session, I'm sure. And so thanks if you've joined already. Love it when people get here nice and early. I'm going to give a very quick overview, first of all, for anyone who's maybe new. It might be your first session that you've joined. So I'm going to give you a quick overview of Diverse, and then we're going to introduce our guests and learn a little bit more about assessment centres. We've got two fantastic guests from BT who are going to help guide us today. So please do, as always, take full advantage of that and ask questions that you think could help you in your career. It's a very, very rare opportunity to be able to ask someone in the talent team or HR team of a company that you could be working at for their tips. So do take advantage of that. So firstly, my name's Toby, and I'm the founder of Diverse, which is an online careers community aimed at supporting students, graduates, young professionals into employment in the UK. So helping you get those first early career roles. We've got lots of guides, resources, podcasts, and obviously online events as well to help you do that, as well as job opportunities with employers who are really focused on diversity and inclusion and reaching more underrepresented candidates and young people. So you'll see at the top of the chat, we've pinned some BT roles that are live on our job board. So if you're looking for internships, placements, apprenticeships, graduate schemes, whatever you're looking for, we've got it. Essentially, there's tons of opportunities. So thanks so much. So I can see Dina, Victoria, Lewis, Mohammed. Please do keep it coming. Let us know who's there, who's tuning in the audience. Drop us a comment. And before actually we throw over the poll, I'm going to introduce our guests to do a quick intro. As we do that, please do keep dropping in those messages in the chat. Keep the chat going. But Miranda, do you want to start by giving a quick intro? Let us know a bit about yourself and what you do at BT.
Yeah, I'd love to. So thanks for having us, Toby. Really great to see you and everyone. My name's Miranda Chalier, and I head up the early careers team in one of our parts of BT called Enterprise, which is all those businesses. So from your small business and your local high street, all the way through to our massive businesses that support the UK infrastructure. So, and I've got the pleasure of owning the whole life cycle. So from attracting great students like the ones who are hopefully joining us today, selecting them, then bringing them into BT and helping them have an amazing experience while they're here. So, and then getting their careers really kick-started in the rest of the company. So I've got a fantastic job, actually.
Very jealous. And we also have Sophie as well from BT also.
So hi everyone, my name's Sophie Wilmot and I work with Miranda at the early careers team within Enterprise. I'm actually relatively new to BT. I'm coming up for about 6 months here. It feels a lot longer. So if anyone's got any questions about what is new, I like at BT, hopefully I'm best placed to help you. But I'm not new to early careers. I've been in early careers recruitment for a really long time. So in terms of these kind of recruitment activities, I'm hoping I'll be able to use all of my experience to be able to tell you exactly what it's like as a whole out there in the early careers community, but more specifically about how BT does things in terms of their recruitment, because I've been really actively involved. So talking about assessment centres today, I was saying earlier I was feeling a little bit nervous because our first one kicks off tomorrow. But I think that's just because I've had a lot of pressure with the arranging of them today. But hoping I can share some tips to help you realise it's not too scary. It's more scary for us on the other side.
Awesome. And so incredible to have you here. If you've got an assessment centre coming up tomorrow, then you're getting some incredible access. Actually, there's a few people in the comments who've said they've got one already. Do drop a comment if you've got an assessment centre already coming up with BT. If not, hopefully you can do by applying to one of the roles available. So as I said, guys, rare opportunity to hear from the people behind these processes. Also, Dina, you've got one tomorrow as well. Congratulations as well if you've got onto assessment centre. That's amazing to hear. As I said, rare opportunity to hear from the people behind the process. So do please listen, learn, make notes throughout. Add your questions to the question tab. You can see it top right there with a little question mark. Add your questions in there, make them specific to you, and we'll get to those at the end and try and make this session as specific and helpful as we can. I'm going to start by throwing up a quick poll to see how you're feeling right now about assessment centres. So hopefully you can all see that. So let us know on a scale of 1 to 10, roughly, how are you feeling? 1 being, really nervous, you've never done the assessment centre before, sort of nervous how you're going to perform. 2s and 3s, still not great. 4, 5, 6, I'm feeling okay about it, but hoping to learn a lot more in the session. And then if you're 8, 9, 10, maybe you're just here to listen and learn and have a bit of a laugh. So, and maybe get even better. So let us know how you're feeling right now. We'll keep that poll going. And also drop in the comments as well. Just as I said, let us know if you've got an assessment centre coming up, if you've never done one before. Give us a bit of an idea, guys, of where you're at in your assessment centre journey. So without further ado, let's kick off and start getting you some insights and tips right away. So Sophie, should we start with the BT process then? For anyone who doesn't know, could you give us a bit of an overview of what the steps are, what can we expect, sort of start to finish?
Absolutely. So I think one of the things I love about BT is we make it as easy as possible for you. So forget about putting those final touches to your CVs. We don't need them in our process. All you need to go is locate the actual job that you want on our website. Once you've found it, click that apply button and tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what degree you're studying, if you're still at university, if you're looking for a placement, what are you currently studying? There'll be some generic questions about your right to work in the UK. Nothing that will give you too much trouble. It's all mobile optimized as well, you'll be happy to know. So if you allow someone that likes to do it on the go, either from the sofa, from the train, you can do that right away. It's so quick. I've done it myself, so I know it's super quick. And then once you've done that first stage in the process, you'll automatically be sent our online test assessment. So that is from SHL, that's the training provider we use. And what we're doing is we're testing your behaviours and also some of your attributes. So some there'll be a timed element, some won't, but that just gives us a bit of a benchmark in testing what we're kind of looking for. So once you've hit that minimum benchmark there, you'll then get through to the next stage, which is the assessment centre. And I just want to stay here, like being someone that's been in recruitment for a really long time, we get inbox inquiries and people moaning that because the front part of the process is so quick, they expect all of the other parts of the process to be quick. But once you've done the online assessment, you do the video interview assessment, and then you come down to the actual assessment centre as well. So it can be quite quick to get to that point, or alternatively, it can be really slow. So I just kind of think everyone that's on here that's, if they're hearing people that I've got a BT assessment centre tomorrow, but there might equally be people that haven't got an assessment centre tomorrow. I don't want anyone to feel that, oh God, that means I haven't been successful. It just means that sometimes the volumes and the way, the kind of the volume works in recruitment, some people can get an answer quickly and other people don't. It depends what role you've applied for. It depends what dates that you did that video stage interview, when you completed your online assessment. So there's so much that goes in the background, but if you haven't heard, that doesn't mean you won't hear from us. So I just wanted to get that in there, that the timescales, although I can talk about the process being really easy, really straightforward, and gosh, you should hear from us within days, theoretically and how that turns out practically doesn't always match up. So just bear in mind, we are a high volume company. We are dealing with thousands of applications. And although we try and make things as easy and as streamlined as possible, that's not always the case.
Thanks, Sophie. I think that's really good to know for everyone who's maybe applied to BT already and sat at home waiting and wondering. I think it's really, really helpful to know that. And as you say, it depends totally on the location, the role, and all those kinds of things. So before we get stuck into assessment centres, you've just given us an overview of the application process so far. For anyone who's listening and thinking, oh, I'd love to apply to one of those placements or graduate schemes or internships or apprenticeships or entry-level roles, what advice do you have for the application process before the assessment centres? Is there anything that you typically see candidates doing wrong, maybe that is a common reason why they're not progressing through the process?
Miranda, are you happy for me to take that one, or do you want to take it?
Yeah, go for it. I mean, I think for me though, the assessment centre before, we're really looking to understand someone's behaviours, their capabilities, and it might just not be the right match on the day. It doesn't necessarily mean someone's done wrong or made a mistake. Sophie, over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I would just kind of add on over that is my biggest piece of advice going through any part of these processes is really understand those timescales. So is it because you haven't completed your online assessment within the 7-day timescale? Is it because you haven't responded regarding the video interview? So double check what those timescales are. Check all of the communications you receive from BT or any company that you're in the process with, and really understand what those timescales look like to manage those expectations. Is it because, you know, there you can find the delay? We do get loads of people going, I haven't heard. And it, as I mentioned earlier, it could just be the high volume. On the flip side, if we want people to really stand out, my biggest piece of advice, and that'll be going through any part of a recruitment process, would be research yourself. Really understand what it is about you that you can talk about. So whether that's a pre-recorded video interview where we've asked you to demonstrate that, know your, it sounds really silly, doesn't it? Say know yourself, but actually, we don't want to hear just about your stuff at university. I don't want to hear just about what you did on your placement. Life is about like being able to draw on a wide range of examples. So what do you do outside of that? What do you have a part-time job, or did you previously do some charity work, or even sports stuff? People don't understand the skills that you learn in team sports, how translatable they are into the workplace. So spend some time when you're doing all of these applications, regardless of what stage you're at, and really research yourself. Write notes if you need to. If you're one of the ones going into the assessment centre tomorrow, write those notes about what else that you can do. What else can you talk about that's not just the stuff you've learned at university?
I love that. Tons of value already, and that's a fun one, isn't it? Like, we don't think always to research ourselves. We know we'll research the company, research the role, you know, research the process, and then the first question is, tell me about yourself. And you go, wait, what do I know about myself?
What do I do?
Yeah. So yeah, it's so true, you know, and we have an interview preparation guide as well. Lola, if you're there in the comments, it'd be great if you could share the link. And there's a few steps that you can go through before the assessment centre. One of them is, you know, some of the things we think you should research and make notes on about yourself. But I think that's a hugely important point. And yeah, let's all take that on board and think a little bit about, you know, the things you've done in the past, any exposure you've got, any transferable skills you might have developed either at university or your personal life that you might want to reflect there. And thanks so much everyone for the questions so far. Hafsa, Sarah, Rafio, Dina, love that there's questions coming in, and they look like great questions as well. For everyone else as well, if you see a question you like, do put an upvote on there if that's the question that you want to be answered, so we can focus on those ones first of all. And as I said, keep the questions coming throughout the process. Glad you're finding that useful already, Samula. That's really good to see. I'm going to pop up another poll before we get into the assessment centre specifically. So in this session, what are we looking to really get the most out of here? What is it that you're specifically focused on? Is it nerves? Is it, you know, dealing with nerves and how you can better manage your mind and go in comfortable and confident? Is it you're really focused on the BT assessment centre specifically? That might be coming up tomorrow or later this month or further down the line if you haven't applied yet. Or is it just general assessment centre advice? You know, you've not done one before, want to learn a little bit more about assessment centres generally. Give us a bit of a guide, a bit of an idea that would be useful. Brilliant. So how about we start by just explaining what the heck assessment centres are all about and what they mean. So I'll hand it over to either Miranda or Sophie. Can you explain to us what assessment centre is all about?
Yeah, so when we have all your fantastic applications through, what we're really trying to do at assessment centres is really find out what your kind of core skills and how they would really apply to BT or to any other company that's running assessment centres. And we're looking to get the best out of you. I don't know if that's a surprise, but we want to see you at your best and try not to let those nerves get in the way, so that we can understand, would you be great for our roles? You know, do you have those kind of behaviours that we're after? So those assessment centres, we run a series of different exercises so that we can see you in different lights as well. So there's chance for you to kind of interact with other people. There's chance for you to do analysis by yourself and have a one-on-one interview. So there's really different ways that we can understand who you are and also help you shine in each of those each of those sessions, because we know we're not always perfect at everything. So during those assessment days, we're looking at you from a variety of different lenses to see if you'll be a great for our roles. So that's at a high level what I think the assessment centres are about.
Brilliant.
Absolutely. I don't think I could add anything else in there at all. Like, I think that's exactly what it's like. And then don't forget, we've mentioned on the application form, we're not asking you those motivational fit questions where we want to, not everybody's able to sell themselves well on paper. Essentially, I know it's not paper, but essentially on paper. So by putting in these assessment centres, we're essentially levelling the playing field for everybody. We're giving you all the same activities. We're giving you all the same exercises to do, so we can judge you completely on your own merits as well, rather than, one person has to do this and one person has to do that. We're trying to, in the interest of diversity, level that playing field as much as possible.
That's definitely what we like to hear. So what we've seen, I guess, throughout since 2020 is a lot of assessment centres going virtually because of COVID, to obviously facilitate assessment centres through that sort of very, very difficult period. So with the BT assessment centres, are they all in person, all online, mixture of the two? How does that work?
So this year, the majority of ours will be virtual. There will be some business areas that might do something in person, but that's for a really specialist part of the area, specialist area that we're looking for. And that's for one of our main apprenticeship intake people. But no, we're virtual. In the interest of diversity, we want to make sure our assessment centres are accessible for everyone. And I just think cost of living crisis and all the train strikes we seem to be affected with, let's do it virtual, then everybody hopefully has the opportunity to log in and kind of access our opportunities as well.
Perfect. And so if we're doing the virtual assessment centre, then I think that's kind of, for a lot of people, they might have actually done an in-person assessment centre in the past and never a virtual one, or a lot of the advice online might be about physical assessment centres. What advice do you have, first of all, around the setup and what we should do in terms of setting up and make sure we're ready for an actual virtual assessment centre?
Well, first of all, is find yourself a space where you can concentrate and where you feel relaxed, and that someone's not about to jump in through the door, because really we want you to be able to have that full concentration. So yeah, find the right space is definitely important, somewhere that you feel like you can be your best self. And probably test the tech. I know it sounds obvious, but if you've got the link, make sure it's working. Make sure you've checked your Wi-Fi so that there's no barriers, or that you've tried as much as you can to prevent any other technical issues. And by the way, technical issues do happen. We're totally aware of that. All of our assessors are super ready for that. So if it does happen, don't get too overwhelmed, because we're here, and we probably will have given you a contact actually when we set up the assessment centre. So there's going to be someone to reach out to and say, look, it's all going a bit wrong, help me out. So probably a good idea is to keep that name or email address or number to hand, just in case anything does happen to kind of go wrong on the day.
Fantastic. Okay, so if something goes really crazy, if my internet cuts out, there's someone I can reach out to. I can explain that to them, so they know I've not just run off to watch the World Cup or something. And there's someone who can actually help me rejoin the process then.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
I think we've seen everything over the years, especially over the last couple of years. I think everyone's now well equipped to expect the unexpected. So if that means a fire alarm has gone off in the middle of your interview, or and your Wi-Fi's gone down, hopefully it's not a BT Wi-Fi, but we're equipped for everything. So don't panic about that. I do think when it means virtual, having that, oh my God, what happens if everything cuts out? As Miranda said, we provide you with a contact. So no, just keep that to hand. Keep your phone nearby as a backup, but you should all be okay.
Amazing. And when I thought about this question, I was thinking, what do I do for these online events? And well, quiet room, like you say. When I did them in the big sort of family home, I would try and tell everyone it'd be great if you couldn't clog the Wi-Fi. You shouldn't be streaming gaming in 4K in the next room. Things like that can kind of affect the Wi-Fi. So if you can tell the family members to maybe not go too crazy when you're doing the assessment centre, then that really helps. And another little thing I kind of have seen it and heard a few people do is just writing a few post-it notes and sticking them on your computer. It could be words of wisdom, it could be a bit of motivation, it could be just breathe, just don't.
It could be that research that you've done about yourself, Toby.
It could be, yeah. It could be some research, exactly. Whatever you want to do, that sometimes helps anchor people. If there's just 1 or 2 bullet points, maybe just whack them on the laptop next to the camera. Good stuff. So in terms of activities then, can you talk us through, is it 3 different activities, 4 different activities? What do they mean? What are they there to assess? That would be fantastic.
I don't feel like I want to give too much away. I'm quite conscious we've got a couple of people that are hopefully going to be on that assessment centre tomorrow. But I can break it down, as Miranda said. You'll get what the order looks like will be completely different. We're using large-scale assessment centres this year. So the aim is to obviously recruit quicker and faster than we have done previously to make sure that we get the best talent for BT. So what the order happens will be completely different depending on what group you are in on the day. But essentially you will do a one-on-one interview, which will be a standard competency-based questions as well. So again, where that research about yourself really plays in, you'll have plenty of opportunities to kind of sell yourself a little bit, and also to get sure that you understand the role that you've applied for to make sure you're kind of equipped. So again, another big tip, just be 100% certain you know what role you've applied for, because you wouldn't believe in all the years I have seen it all. So especially if people applying for multiple roles, multiple or similar roles at different companies, my goodness, do not start an interview with the wrong company name or say, this is why I want to work for this company. Make sure it's the right one, because unfortunately we are going to school you down on that. The next section will be either an analysis part where you'll be given a task. We're giving you kind of lots of research to kind of scroll through, and then you'll be asked to present it back. And the other one will be a group exercise. Now, hopefully you can see, like, obviously the one-on-one interview, we're really trying to understand your motivations of why you want to join BT, telling us about yourself. With the group exercise, hopefully it's kind of self-explanatory, but we're looking for collaboration. How do you work within a team? How do you break that down? I think a common question that my sort of before when I've done it as many years ago, I think people think in these assessment centres, oh my God, they're only going to be looking for the person that's really in your face, or they only want the ones that are going to take charge. And I have been in situations where I've really seen that from candidates, and it feels a bit like a battle. And absolutely, that's not what we want in the workplace. We're looking for all types of personalities. What we're looking for is actually, how do you collaborate with others, and how do you put yourself away in that place? So don't be, if you're naturally maybe quite introverted, don't feel that you're going to be at a disadvantage in this situation, because we are trained, and all of our assessors are trained to look out for lots of different personalities. So please don't worry. I saw that was one of the questions there. So I just want to rest assure you with that. So yeah, and then obviously the analysis, we're obviously looking about how you can take large kind of volumes of information. How do you then present it and interpret it as well? Another part of the day, which won't be one of the formal exercises, but because it's virtual, we want you to have that opportunity, is you will get the chance to have a bit of a Q&A with our current graduates and our current industrial placements. So we've scheduled that in there, and you'll be able to drop in and out if you've got any questions, or you want some reassurance, or you just really don't want to hear from Miranda and I, you want to hear from the people that are living and breathing it every day. They are there, and they are kind of ready to answer all of your questions too. So you can get an insight about, they would have been in your shoes last year. Like, how have they found that transition into the workplace? We want to give you as much opportunity to really get a full insight into life at BT, albeit in a virtual little world.
I love that. So that's a really good opportunity for them to, again, ask even more questions and find out, that BT is the right place for you to work. And actually, I forgot to mention, I started my graduate career at BT. So I actually did go through this process. And I actually, one of the differences for me was I actually enjoyed, and I'm not just saying that because you're here, I actually enjoyed the process. And I think that's also partly sort of my perspective going in. Like, I think previous assessment centres, I was maybe a little bit nervous, and we'll go into that a little bit, and maybe just sort of putting a little bit too much pressure on myself, where I said with the BT one, look, whether I'm successful or not, I'm just going to go and enjoy this day, and then we'll see what happens. And obviously that worked out. And one point that you alluded to is actually there are a couple of people on the group exercise that ended up joining me on the graduate scheme, and we're still friends to this day. And so that's a lesson there that actually, to your point, you're not all competing. You might all be, you might be in a group of 5. You might be going for different roles, potentially even if it's the same role, you could still all be hired together, right? So it's a really collaborative process, that the group exercise, isn't it?
Absolutely. We've got lots of roles. There's lots of opportunities.
There's plenty of opportunities. And actually, let's go into a little bit. Actually, I'll throw up a poll just as we're having to think about this. But I think it'd be good for us to add even more in terms of each aspect of the process. What are some of our tips? And we'll start with the group exercise. But I'm going to throw up a poll just to see. And I've added an extra presentation question as well. Actually, Sophie, in terms of the group exercise, do you have to present at the end back to the team? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. So read that presentation as the presentation at the end of the group exercise. So which part are you most nervous about? Is it the group exercise? Is it the individual task? Is it the presentation at the end? So just for you to understand, you'll be given a task as a group, certain amount of time, and then at the end, you'll need to present that back to the assessors. So you'll each, I think you get to decide which bit you speak about, and you'll each get a little bit of time to present. So it looks like the presentation and the interview is where people are most nervous for. Okay, interesting. Less so the group exercise. Okay, that's good to know. Yeah, brilliant. And I think just focusing on the group exercise. Oh, it's moving around a little bit. Maybe I'm talking too soon. Just thinking first of all about the group exercise. So I always found that it was really good if you can kind of get other people involved. So what I like to do is, first of all, know everyone's name and like a little bit about what they do, maybe as their degree, so that you can kind of say, oh, Jennifer, I know that you're studying marketing. Do you want to chip into the marketing aspect of the role, or just little things like that? I think knowing the names, it sounds small, but it makes it really easy to sort of just collaborate a little bit. I think especially if anyone's being a little bit quiet, because a lot of people think, oh, I need to be heard. I need to make sure I get my time in the limelight. But really doing the exact opposite and make sure you bring in other people can really, really help. So any other thoughts on group exercise and how to really do well there?
I think you've given away some fantastic tips actually there, Toby, if I'm honest. So, don't want to give the whole game away, but definitely, as Sophie talked about, it's how you guys are going to work together to come up with a solution or come up with a presentation at the end. So in terms of thinking about that, the working together aspect, how do you show up in a team aspect? To Toby's point, are you bringing people in, or are you doing the whole thing yourself? Definitely one for you to kind of reflect on. I think my top tip is got to be really make sure you understand the task, because it can be really easy to get overexcited and start, coming up with ideas. And my top tip is definitely have a read through the task, make sure you really have absorbed it, and then hopefully this is obvious, but make sure you're answering the original question as well. And maybe not what you'd like to tell us about, but make sure you tell us what we've asked for.
And just to add on that, be aware of your time. These are timed exercises. I've seen some great group discussions happening where everyone's bouncing ideas off, but nobody's kept time of what's happening. And actually the presentation bit never happened because they ran out of time. So make sure you're fully aware. And if you are maybe one of the quieter ones, or you haven't found your role in that group, don't underestimate the power of keeping everyone to time, pushing people, reminding people the timescales. That's a quality, bit of project management there.
Exactly. That's what we like to see. No, definitely. I mean, I think that as well will look quite good if you're mindful of the time and you're communicating how long you've got left to the group and just sort of thinking. And I think this goes the same for the individual analysis task as well. Find out how long you've got and try and split that up a little bit, like maybe how you did it in an exam at university, and think, okay, I'm going to carve out 15 minutes for planning, whatever it is, 30 minutes for doing, and then a little bit of time at the end to wrap things up. I think that can really help in both the group exercise and the individual task. Now that I've left this live a little bit longer, it looks like, the interviews is maybe a little bit more where people are quite a bit nervous about. Any further advice? I think we touched on it quite a bit, but anything else to help people going into one of these interviews that you think might be relevant?
I think. Oh yeah, sorry, Sophie. I was just going to say. I mean, what you said about researching yourself, I think, is really important. Just to kind of build on that is also thinking about how do you articulate all of that great experience you've got. And what I mean by that is sometimes it's easy to go, well, this is what I did. We're also, I guess, really curious to know how you did it and why you did it. So also, I think in your interviews, just have a think about maybe not glossing over something that actually maybe we'd be really curious about. So that would definitely be something I would ask you to think about and probably prepare as well, which is all of your great experience. Why did you do that? How did you do it? And make sure you just don't minimize any great thinking or contribution that you made by assuming that we're totally aware of it. So that would definitely be something I'd think about. The other thing is like our assessors. I don't know if you realise, but we get so many volunteers across the business who really want to be in that room with you. They want to meet you. They want to kind of understand you. They're there with really good intent. So if you're feeling a little bit nervous or, a bit intimidated by the situation, I'd really just love you to know that these people are so excited to be part of the assessment days. They really want to get the best out of you. So in terms of maybe some of those nerves, just remember they really want you to do brilliantly. So take a breath, be yourself, and you'll be fine in those interviews.
Just wanted to add on your first point, Miranda, is actually some of the best. I think we have a tendency to show ourselves off in the best light in an interview. That's all everyone's interested. They just want to see the best version. Actually, some of the best examples I've seen on an interview is when someone has told me when it hasn't gone well. Actually, this was an experience that didn't go well, but do you know what? I learned from it. And from an interviewer, like listening and as an assessor listening to that, that's fantastic, because you've been able to take a situation that didn't go to plan, but actually you've learned from it and you've been able to tell me exactly what you've learned for it, why you wouldn't do that. So when we're doing that little bit of research about ourselves, do you think about those big experiences where you have had some, either a tough lesson or you've learned from something? So yeah, don't just focus on all the stuff that you are really amazing at. Focus on maybe the stuff that you've really learned and actually appreciate, because that's obviously going to be part of your journey.
I absolutely love all of those points. And guys, we're getting tons of value. This is from, the assessors, the people behind the process. They're giving you a lot of inside knowledge here. So drop a comment, let us know how you're feeling about the session and what you're getting out of this so far. Would love to see that. And yeah, please do take this on board. This is super powerful stuff here. How about our appearance then? So I think a lot of people get quite nervous about what to wear during the process. Any thoughts, any advice for someone who's thinking, what should I go in wearing for this assessment centre with BT or another organisation perhaps?
Again, probably another curveball that being virtual kind of shows, doesn't it? And I'm sure we've seen loads of things online over the last couple of years of when professional meetings online have not gone well due to what people are wearing. Look, bear in mind, this is an interview, so we do want you to have a kind of standard address that is appropriate for an interview. However, I'm not expecting to see someone sitting there in a three-piece suit and a tie. No, I'm not kind of expecting that. These can be quite long days. So you do want to be comfortable. You want to make sure you've got your water to hand. If you need a little energy boost, maybe some snacks, but it is a formal interview. So I do want to see kind of appropriate level of wear as well. First impressions still count, be they're virtual or in person. So yeah.
And I think it can have an impact on how you feel as well. Like if you're wearing something super relaxed, that might be the vibe you want to give off. But sometimes in interviews, when you dress appropriately, you're sitting up a little bit more and you're more engaged in the day. So I think they sometimes say dress for the job you want. So go for that. But yes, we want to get the best out of you, but show us that you care.
I love that, Miranda. I do that all the time when I'm really nervous about something. I put on designer shoes just because no one's going to see them, but they're there and they make me feel better.
Yeah, you know they're there. Love that. I love that. Awesome. And I guess also to your point as well, the environment that you're in is also like your virtual outfit in a way, right? So try and make sure, you know, it's probably a plain background. If you're in your bedroom, maybe it's not a, you know, old poster from when you're little, you know, you might want to have sort of a very plain background. So have a think about that as well. Or what I always do is before I sort of press the enter button in Teams, I just have a quick look. Have I missed anything? Is there anything going on in the background? And then you can just change it from there. So have a think about all of that. So as I said, make sure you're comfortable, but also remember you're going for an interview. Anything to add on that, Miranda?
I was just thinking, and Sophie might correct me, but I think you can have a different background in our portal this year, which I think is a new addition. So, you know, if it's just impossible for you to get anywhere and the background is just distracting because that's the only place you can work from, then I do think we've got the option to kind of give you like a blurred or different background. I have loads of fun picking out like what's behind me sometimes on those calls.
And just to add on that, actually, you know, we have updated the software that we're using. So even when people are suffering from dyslexia, or I know there's lots of kind of different formats where they need the writing put on certain colors and things like that, it's been upgraded so people can do that. So I don't want anyone to worry that, you know, if we're giving you lots of, you know, stuff to read, that because of your disability, you're going to have an issue of that. We've tried to manage all of that. If you need the text to read stuff, that's all built into Top Score as well. That's the system that we're using. So any issues or anything like that, I've said that name contact is there to help you, but they should have already signposted you. This is the stuff that's available if you flag to us that you need additional support.
Perfect. Brilliant. And please do, guys, keep the questions coming. We're getting some brilliant questions so far. We're going to get to those shortly, but I've just got a few. Selfishly, I've got a few more questions that I think will help. First of all, so talking about nerves, how we manage nerves, and, you know, going into, I think it's important to remember, you know, we're sort of, when we've been studying for a few years, this is like the big chance to get a graduate role at BT and, you know, get a job at a company you really want. And I think that's often where you get the nerves, when you just really want something a lot. So I think that's the backdrop. And obviously, you know, it might be the first assessment center you've ever done, so it's a little bit daunting in that sense as well. Any advice at all on how you recommend someone manage those nerves in the build-up or in the preparation or during as well?
I think there's probably a few things, but it can be really personal. So I would firstly sort of say, you know yourself best. You know that maybe going out the night before might not be the best thing. So, you know, try and take it easy. You also know how to kind of focus on yourself, which is actually, if you do preparation, are you going to feel better? If you make sure you look after yourself and have a really good night's sleep, that you might wake up feeling a bit more refreshed. So there's definitely something about knowing yourself. And then hopefully we can reassure you by just reminding you that we are not, we're not here to kind of trip you up. And sometimes it feels like you're maybe trying to compare yourself to other people. Especially, I think that group exercise can definitely sometimes play with people's confidence. But we really don't want you to worry about what anybody else is doing. And I think as Toby and Sophie already mentioned, you know, there's plenty of roles and you could actually be, your whole group might get a job in the end. But we're not here to trip you up. We want you to relax and be your best self. So take a breath. If you don't understand something, you feel like maybe you haven't quite got it, honestly, our assessors are all prepared to kind of rephrase a question or to read it out again. Make sure that you take that time to make sure you kind of give yourself the best opportunity to be confident. And I think there's something about being grounded, feeling in an environment that feels safe, that can also really help you battle those nerves on the day. But I mean, I've got to be honest, I joined BT actually as a graduate a few years ago, and I had those nerves, and it's something some people just have to battle with and try and make the best of. But the more practice you do, the more confident you'll be because you would have had those experiences. I think the fact that you're already listening to a webinar like this, that's great preparation, and that's really going to hopefully help demystify and make it seem a bit less daunting. So yeah, a few little bits in there just to kind of help remind you that it's going to be okay. That's all I can reassure you.
yeah, just to echo that, like you might be some person that actually they have lots of nervous energy. So actually going out, having a run, doing something energetic, get all those kind of nervous energy out. That might be the best way for you to kickstart your day, especially if you're sitting down at a desk for a long time. Me, I personally love a bit of visualization. I love a bit of a manifest. So I might put some Spotify playlist to help with some meditation to try and get myself in the right zone. I also tend to speak really quickly when I'm nervous. I think I speak quickly anyway, but unfortunately that gets even worse when I'm really nervous and uncomfortable. So I'm very aware of that now. So if anyone else is kind of similar, it's okay to pause when someone asks you an interview question. It's fine to say, can I have a moment? Take that deep breath, formulate your answer, try and construct it in the best way. But I said, our assessors have gone through lots of training. They know we're not nitpicking here. Everybody's very human at BT as well. Let me just say that as the newcomer, like everybody's very human, very normal. And that is what I love about it as well. So just as much as you can, we know it's a nerve-wracking opportunity. Take that deep breath, formulate your answer. As Miranda said, you need more time. You need someone to rephrase the question. Please feel comfortable enough to ask.
Thank you so much for those answers. And sometimes it is as simple as a deep breath, isn't it? That can just make all the difference to sort of just quieting down your mind. Just continuing on the mental health conversation, just before we get into the questions, and there are some really good questions. So thank you so much, Tosin, Samola, and everyone who's put in a question. Thanks so much. What are BT doing, and what should perhaps other employers as well be thinking about in terms of helping us manage our mental health as we make that transition, probably for the first time, into the working world?
Well, first of all, we're just really aware what a big change that can be for some people. Obviously, some people might have had a job before joining us, but a lot of our early careers joiners would have come maybe straight from studying. So we do acknowledge it's a really big transition. And there's a few things that we put in place just to make sure that we're trying to minimize that stress as much as possible. So we assign buddies to our new joiners, and that's really someone that you can reach out to before you join BT, that you can just ask those questions to. We also actually try and connect you with all the other new joiners as well, so you can form a bit of a community, share those concerns, hopefully demystify them. And also, as part of our kind of pre-joining, we actually try and get you in as much as possible, either to meet your line manager or maybe to meet other grads. You can see the office, you can get to understand what it's like and where you're going. And then usually on your first day, you're surrounded by grads and buddies and other apprentices, and we're trying to give you that warm welcome so that it's not too overwhelming for your first day. So don't worry, we're not going to bring you into the boardroom for a big presentation. We're probably going to get to know you all a bit better and help smooth that out. So there's a few things we do in terms of starting to bring you into the company to really try and help you just minimize those worries or answer those questions actually that have been kind of going on in your head and maybe causing you a few little sleepless nights. So there's plenty that we do to try and minimize that. And then as an employee with BT, there's actually a real amazing wealth of support that's available. So we focus on your mental health as well as your physical health. So in terms of mental health, there is fantastic support. I mean, Sophie talked about mindfulness and meditation. We have apps available through Teams that can give you that as you start your day. There's a 24/7 support line for, sometimes you might be having a really, really tough time. It's totally anonymous. It's 24 hours a day. And that's something that BT provide to all of its employees so that you can kind of get that support. But also our line managers are trained. We give them that mental health training to make sure that they can spot signs, that they can offer that support. And especially our early careers line managers, they're all especially aware of what a big transition this can be. And then in terms of like your physical health, we recently had like a Fit for Life campaign. So the whole company was monitoring their steps and challenging each other to kind of get more active, especially during those kind of dark winter months, because that is also a time where mental health can be especially challenged for some people. There's some discounted gym memberships and other things. So I've got to say, BT takes your health really, really seriously, and we really try and make sure it's a topic of conversation, that we don't feel like there's any taboo subjects, and we've got great people networks who can put on calls and really talk about how do you manage that mental health. So I think that's something, hopefully we can reassure you, that we take really seriously, because we know that you at your best is your happy, healthy self, but we also know that you can't be happy 100% of the time. So BT is really, I think, forthright on what support they can offer to their colleagues. And it's something that I love about the company and why I'm so connected to it.
Wow, such a holistic, sort of long list, well thought out strategy. Those are the types of things, I think, everyone listening, those are the key things that you want to be looking for in an organization that's really thought about it top to bottom and has all those incredible things in place, many of which would usually, if you're going to get 24-hour support in the normal world, I mean, that would cost you tons of money, right? So that's incredible. Let's dive into some...
Toby, I'm just going to talk over the other end of that. So much of your mental health is linked to being your authentic self. So Miranda touched on those people networks, and I'm just conscious that the whole theme is obviously diversity as well. And I know that sometimes that can be a struggle, if sometimes during the part of the process, especially at BT, being, so technology focused and you've not really seen that human interaction, like you want to have that sense of belonging and that sense of, do I see myself working here? But just kind of want to reassure anyone that has those questions or those feelings when they go through the process that, the assessment day is just going to be a little glimpse into the world of BT. It's not like, showcasing that we'll do everything we possibly can to make sure everybody feels comfortable with that. But as Miranda illustrated, these people networks are there to ensure that people have a sense of belonging. That's really important. That's actually one of the reasons that I left my previous companies, because I didn't feel that I was part of that community culture and things like that. So I can sympathize with people that might be sitting on the call listening, going, actually, that's a huge part about which company I want to join. So yeah, again, just with my newbie hat on, just have seen the changes. And so everything that Miranda's illustrated, I can just echo that down, how that feels as a new person coming in.
Absolutely. And often there's that big rush to get that role, but, you do need to think about once you're there, are you going to be, really happy? Is it going to be the place where, as you say, you can be your best self, so that can be a tough situation if you're a place that isn't like that. Again, thanks so much for all the questions, all the comments as well. Do keep those coming, keep dropping the comments, let us know what you're learning and how you're finding the session. I'm going to dive into some of the questions now. And just as I do this, I'm going to get to a couple of questions first. Miranda and Sophie, if we've covered any of these questions already, because they've been coming in throughout the session, I might still ask you, and you just give us a quick fire round. If there's anything that we missed or you think we've covered it, we can move on to the next one. So just let me know. But first one is from Tosin. Thanks so much for this, Tosin. I've been in professional group situations where someone talks over everyone and doesn't give everyone a chance to speak. If this happens during an assessment center task, how should I handle this? Thank you very much.
Just bear in mind, if you're feeling it and you're noticing it, absolutely the assessors themselves will have noticed it. So it can be really tough in that, and I do sympathise, but work out what else can you make that impact. Again, we've talked about other roles you could find within that group, but be aware that if you're noticing it, you're feeling it, the assessors will be aware of it as a monitoring it as well. So just make sure that you do carve some time to either get some relevant points across, or you're bringing in other people that you've noticed haven't said anything. Everything else that we talked about, yeah.
And I can really empathise, because I think I'm definitely one of those people that hasn't got a really loud voice. So it can be difficult sometimes to interrupt. Sometimes I use their personal first name, and that can sometimes jolt someone. If I say, Toby, have we heard from Sophie yet? That can sometimes be a really neat way of getting someone to pause in their tracks. But you've got to get your question in quick, or your point.
Well, you got my attention just then, so clearly that works. Perfect. So next one's from Sunmula. I think this is with regards to sort of your scenario-based questions, perhaps, or it could be, scenario, I think more so. Is there ever a wrong answer? And because I find questions in assessment centers very hard to answer. So perhaps with those tough questions, is there like a specifically a wrong way to answer them, or is it more we're assessing the thought process and how you got to your conclusion?
I think to that point, Toby, like if you can explain your thought process and why you've done it, maybe if it wasn't the standard answer, that's still okay. I think there could be a wrong answer in terms of if you said, well, I don't want to do that whole thing, I think it's a load of rubbish. If you were to take a really extreme response, I think we might go, yeah, no, that probably doesn't fit. But I doubt that would be you guys. I think you're more likely to just explain your thought process, and that really helps our interviewers and assessors to kind of, even if it maybe wasn't what we were expecting, if we can therefore see your thought process, then that's still great.
There's a really good way to answer and to remember it when you're doing these interviews. I'm sure I'm not breaking news here, but using that STAR technique when it comes to these type of interview questions. So someone asks you a question, STAR: situation, task, action, result. So outline the situation you're in, the tasks that you as an individual took, the actions that you took as an individual, and the results. So many people are quite happy with STA. They always kind of forget the results, and essentially think of that as, what did I learn from this experience? That's all you need to remember. So no, I don't think there's a wrong way, but as Miranda said, if you make sure you're getting that R in, doesn't matter, as I earlier alluded to, even if you're giving me an example where it went all really wrong, as long as you can say at the end what you learned from it, it's not a bad example, is it?
Absolutely. I love the STAR technique as well. I think it just helps give you structure. If you get a sort of open-ended, tell me about a time question, you're not too sure where to start or finish, that STAR technique gives you a good guidance. And there's more on that in our interview guide as well, more details on the STAR technique. And if anyone's joined partway through or a little bit later on, then we've got special guests from BT, and they're helping us talk through assessment centres, how to prepare, how to really perform well. Pinned to the top of the chat, you'll find BT roles, early career roles on our job board, internships, your placements, your apprenticeships, your graduate roles. Please do go ahead and apply to those if they look like roles that are going to be well suited to you. They're huge variety across tech, sales, business, you name it. So go check those out and apply if you think they're right for you. And then please do take on a lot of these tips and bring them with you to the assessment centre so you're ready to go. Just before I go to the next question, I'm going to throw up another poll and find out how you're feeling currently about your assessment centre. So are you feeling more comfortable now? Are we making some progress? And if not, if it's a low one, please do put in a question and let's help you get there. The next one from Sharifa. Let me know if I got your name wrong. I'm terrible at names sometimes. What's the best? That's two questions actually. So first one, how can you make sure that you stand out in the assessment centre without being obnoxious or speaking over others? What would be your advice on that?
So for me, it's about having those great points or having that role that's your own. And I think if you're trying to include other people as you do that, you're very unlikely to come across as obnoxious. So, but if you're conscious you're the only person that's been speaking for the last 10 minutes, then maybe just try and go, okay, breathe, and maybe ask someone else in the team a question. Yeah. I don't know if you've got any other ideas.
I think, reading everything that's given to you, if it's the group exercise, make sure you know the materials that be given. As Miranda said earlier, make sure you're actually answering the question that we've asked of you is kind of a big one. But yeah, I think apart from that, everything else, I think, go back to that research about yourself. And as you mentioned, Toby, if people need Post-it notes to remind them what they did, sometimes it can help, can I have those examples already in your head? Like, do I know a time when I had to be organised? Do I know a time when things didn't go to plan? Can I give an example of when I worked within a team? If you can kind of anticipate the likelihood of the typical questions you're going to be asked, you could have those kind of already prepared. And ideally, I would like to see them different examples. So rather than always talking about your university, this is when being able to show all the range of stuff you do outside of it can really play into your strengths. If I've given one example from my university, like team module when I did a bit of coursework together, I then could give an example when I did some charity work. I then did an example from my Saturday job that I had when I was 16, or my Duke of Edinburgh award when I was at school. If you can show a range of experiences when you're answering these different questions, I think that would be help. I think as an interviewer and as an assessor, the type of people that all they can focus on is their university, it can be a little bit of a struggle because they end up repeating themselves with the same answers for very similar questions. So yeah, having to be mindful. Yeah. Want you to show off everything that you know.
Definitely. I think Miranda added to that point earlier when you mentioned, really just having pride in whatever experience you do have, even if it's not your formal experience. I think we see a lot of people who do amazing things in their personal time, like, having caring responsibilities or volunteering or even starting a little side hustle, and then they don't mention it in the interview because for whatever reason. But you should really have confidence in experience that you've done, because that will give you some skills that BT are going to be eager to learn more about. So thanks for that, both. A couple of questions again on preparing. We've covered that quite a bit, but just to reiterate, really do start with yourself first of all. Make some notes on the things you've done in the past, what skills you developed, what you're passionate about, what you like to do in your personal time. All those things are going to be useful just to have fresh in your mind when you're ready for those questions. Also keep in mind the values of the companies that you're applying to. So, correct me if they've been updated, but personal, simple, brilliant. We're good. Yeah. We're good. Okay, we're good. That's the BT value. So if I'm doing the group exercise or I'm doing the analysis task, I'm going to be thinking, okay, how can I make this personal for the customer or the client? How can I make it really simple if it's an idea or a proposition or whatever it is? And of course, think big. How can we make it brilliant? So those are the kind of things where we're going to be looking out for those things. So do know the value of the company. And then we also touched on knowing the role, which role you applied to at a very basic level, and just keep reading that job description. Have a chat with someone else as well if you don't quite understand it. Ask people like myself and Lola, and we can try and give you some guidance. So that's preparation. So we've got to that one. A question here on visa. So is BT Group able to sponsor visas for the UK, specifically tier 2? That might be I don't know if that's very, very specific, but anything we can say on that, or do we have to come back on that one?
I think we have to come back on it, but I think it would only be in exceptional circumstances. So, for example, like a really niche set of skills.
Brilliant. Preparation we've covered. So yeah, lots of questions on preparation, guys, but hopefully as we said earlier as well, you're preparing by coming to this. This is really, you're going to be in a great position by watching this webinar, and you can, if you've come in a little bit late, you can watch the recording a little bit later on. Just checking on how everyone's doing. We're looking good. Everyone's 6s, 7s, 8s, 9s. So we definitely had, there you go, there's some numbers there. We definitely had a good impact. So happy to do that, guys. That's why we're putting on these sessions, to make you feel more comfortable and confident doing these. So, and thank you to you as well for turning up and taking some time out, because you could be anywhere right now and you're here. So we really appreciate that. And do just keep letting us know in the comments what you like and why is this useful, because we want to do these, every single month regularly with employers to help you progress in your careers. Quick one here from Samula. Is the individual task very technical? Again, I think we can't reveal too much about the assessment center process, exactly what it will be, but there's going to be some analysis involved, so you can kind of draw from that. There's going to be some sort of critical thinking that you're going to have to do.
But it's not going to be on like the depths of 5G or broadband. So in terms of it being like technical like that, it's definitely much more accessible than that.
Fantastic. And a question here from Cassandra. What are some good questions to ask as you're an interviewer?
Oh, I always like asking the person how long they've been at BT and finding out a little bit about, what their career journey has been and what they enjoy working about, what do they enjoy at BT, but equally, what do they dislike about working at BT as well, just to kind of find out more of a balanced kind of insight. I always think that's good. I would ask that anywhere I go.
I think that's perfect, because as much as we're interviewing you, you guys are interviewing us as well. Don't forget, like, you need to make sure that this is a place that you think you can be happy and successful. So I think Sophie's advice there is absolutely spot on.
And again, utilize those opportunities to speak to our current graduates and IPs as well. They'll be there prepared to give you the insider knowledge. And Miranda and I are a little bit older than them, so maybe someone more closer to your age range as well, about how they feel going there. We've been working for quite a while now.
Perfect. So we've got another question from someone who's got through to the BT assessment. Well, actually, they've done. Oh, I think we've covered this earlier. So someone's passed the SHL video interview, not yet heard back. But as we say, the process can be quite long. There's lots of roles. And lots of locations. So I think, just really understand, don't worry about it. Try to, not think about it too much, and you'll hear back when BT is ready to let you know. So as we said at the beginning, some people didn't hear back before others. That's just the way the process works. So there's a question on here on, is the session going to be recorded? The answer to that is yes. Sarah's got a question on the software summer internship role. Is there going to be a coding task in that? I guess that's the initial application when you first apply. And is it sort of a beginner-friendly software internship, or do you need to have prior exposure to coding beforehand? I know you've got lots of roles, so I don't know if that's one you're happy to cover.
Not one that we're personally looking after, as far as I'm aware. However, if it's an internship, we're not expecting you to have all the answers. Like, don't feel like when you're applying for internships, you need to be an expert in that field, because what would you learn from an internship? So no, I think if there's any particular activities that you're going to be doing, it would be illustrated in the application process on the original job advert. So as I mentioned to earlier, it doesn't really affect a lot of our graduate roles and our industrial placement roles. But if anyone on here was listening and they're applying for one of our apprenticeship roles, some of those parts of the business have got an amended process. It could be because they work in quite remote areas, or they need to have particular, security clearance. Maybe we need you to have a driving license, or you need to pass a colorblind test or something like that. Those kind of crucial differentiating factors are going to be job specific, but they'd all be on the individual advert.
Brilliant. And then another one here on, actually someone's very interested in going to more BT events. So, is there anywhere you showcase your events? Are any of them in person as well? Because they'd love to network in person as well if possible. Is there a place we can go to for BT events?
Would definitely follow us on the socials. I think that's a really great place to start. And we've been to a lot of careers fairs, so you can definitely see us out and about, trying to entice fantastic students come and join us. And then we often do some school outreach as well. So but the best place to find that is definitely by following us on the socials. We'll be advertising anything locally there.
I'm just saying, I think probably from university campus, we're probably winding down a lot of our roles. If you haven't seen us already, disappointed that you might not have interacted with us. But yeah, as Miranda said, keep an eye on the socials. We've got lots of lovely, beautiful offices we're keen to show off. So I'm sure Miranda is today. I think she's in Birmingham today. And they're stunning. And so I know definitely in the apprenticeship in the school leaver field, we've been doing a lot with young professionals. Conscious of this target audience is probably graduate focused. So we might have been more likely on campus, but you never know what the future holds. I said, we're kind of keen to show off these beautiful places of work. I know there's a lot of misconceptions about what does it work, when you see a large corporate office, what does it mean to work there? And does everybody walk around in suits and ties all days? And I'm sure Miranda can vouch that no, it's not actually. We've got some
animal print.
And we've got really beautiful facilities. We've got roof terraces. We've got fantastic in-office restaurants. And yeah, sometimes I feel like I'm more in a shopping mall than I would be in a standard office. So I think, again, when we talk about can you visualize yourself there, I'm sure if you go online, you can see some of the little YouTube clips from when we've done some filming, so you can get a real feel for what the office environment is like.
And then just as a reminder, if and when you're successful for one of our schemes, then we will bring you in before you join us, so that you can either get to meet your line manager or get to meet other graduates or apprentices or industrial placement students.
Fantastic. And I actually went to the new London office not long ago, and I can actually safely say it is incredible. So, a lot to look forward to if you're going to that office there in London as well. So, there's a few questions about the recordings and also some of the roles as well, and the process. We did chat about the BT process at the beginning. What we're going to do is, as soon as the recording ends, we're going to send you a link. Well, the webinar ends, we'll send you a link to the recording as well, so you have that right away. We'll also, in our newsletter coming up, share the BT process as Sophie and Miranda explained it, and some tips as well. We'll take some summaries of the tips that we've learned here and pass those on to you, so you'll get a reminder of the process, or if you missed that, we'll cover that off for you. So we just have a few more questions here. Are we good to get through the last few? Yeah, you don't have to rush off. Question here from Dina. Are we allowed to use a notebook and a pen in case we need to work through any task?
Yes, why not? Use what you need.
I've got my book right here. I personally like to kind of capture things. It's a great idea if that's how you work. And don't forget, you know yourself best. So think about how you can get the best out of yourself on that day.
And again, that comes to preparation when you're getting ready for an assessment centre that could potentially be quite a long few hours. Get your water, get your snacks, get your notebook, your pen. If it's getting cold, get the heating on so you're not shivering too much. Make sure it sounds really obvious, but make sure your station is set up and equipped so you can be really successful.
Fantastic. And let's do quick fire round for these last few questions so we can get everything you need for these last few questions. A question here from Rafiu. Is BT and OpenReach assessment centres done simultaneously, and are they together or are they completely separate as well? To add to that.
So they're separate. Sophie, you might be closer to when the OpenReach ones are scheduled for, but I think Enterprise are probably soonest in the diary.
Enterprise are first. OpenReach will follow up in the next few weeks. They're not quite prepared yet. So if you've applied for an OpenReach role and you haven't heard back, again, just high volume. They're still working their way through it.
Perfect. I think we've covered this one, but Similar's sort of also said that lots of companies are always asking for experience, technical skills, and is that a bit of a deal breaker if you haven't developed some of those technical skills? All the roles we're talking about here are true early career roles, right? They don't require previous experience, and that's a great thing. We talked about this a little bit on our last session. Oh, that's a reminder. Lola, could you drop in the link to the podcast episode with Sandeep and also the recording for our last event? We actually had on two lovely guests, Sarah and Maya, who'd done either the placement and or the graduate scheme at BT. And they talk more about what they did, what their experience was like, and how they've developed as well in these roles. That for me is one of the huge benefits of doing a graduate scheme or a placement, one of these programs where you can rotate and get exposure to different parts of the business so you can really learn what you're suited to and help develop your skills. When I was at BT, there was tons of training, I'm sure there still is now, to help you with your learning and development. And you don't necessarily always get that. So I think that really helps. So I think the roles are designed to help really enhance your skills throughout the process, right? So anything to add to that, Miranda or Sophie?
Only that there might be a small number of technical roles that might require like a STEM degree as a basis. So, but that is certainly for our graduate roles, the majority of those don't require it, but some of them, a small number may.
And in just terms of what you're going to get when you join us, like you get what you put in. So although we've got loads of tools and you'll have access to everything that we've got, unless, that person has got the motivation to develop themselves, when, this is working well, we're not there to spoon feed you. Like the people that do well at BT are doing it, kind of because they've taken those opportunities and they've got that drive to succeed. So think of it like a driving car. We'll teach you how everything works and we'll show you where everything is. But really, it's down to you. Put yourself in the driving seat and, you visualize where you want to go. We'll take you there.
Sounds good to me. And just a question here on the sort of calendar, the recruitment cycle. When do these roles, the roles that are live now, assessment starting sort of now as well, moving forward, when do those roles actually start? When do we get into these lovely offices and start these roles?
So we'll be recruiting for September next year. So it sounds madness that we need you to apply and, hopefully get offers out this side of Christmas and beyond. But yeah, there's obviously a lot of stuff that goes into the background, and we know that if we need to secure the best possible talent, we need to get it done early. We don't want to lose you to other companies. So yeah, we're recruiting now for the September intake.
Brilliant. And very, very last question is on interviewer feedback. So during the actual interview, would you recommend asking the interviewer for feedback on your performance at the end, or is that something we should wait to do after the process is completed?
We encourage our interviewers to kind of reflect after the interviews. So we want them to think of, we've given them some kind of bias training as well. So we really want them to kind of reflect after the interviews and then do their scoring. So it might not be the best time right at the end of the interview for them to kind of give you that feedback, because we really want them to kind of reflect and compare it against our capabilities and what we're measuring against. So it might not be the best time, but I do appreciate, you kind of want to know how you've done. So I know that's tricky not to want to know right in the moment.
And sometimes you'll see an assessor that, for a different, someone who's assessing you for the group exercise versus the person you were speaking with, your interview, are all going to be different people, because we want that different of opinion as well. So it's not going to be the same person rotating around you. So actually the last person you ask at the end of the day might not have seen you at all for the other exercises and have no idea how you performed in the other exercises. So that's what the lead recruiters are there for. So I don't think it's in this format, I don't think it's appropriate. However, if you haven't heard back, you get nervous, or you just like to have that feedback, your recruiter will be able to do that for you.
Brilliant. I think, really, really good to know. I think it's really helpful going in to have that perspective and understand, exactly how the process works. I just want to take this time to say a huge thank you to our guests, first of all, for giving up this time and really helping guide us and better understand assessment centres and BT and the process as well, and to really give you top tips. And I think, I've learned quite a bit, and I'm sure everyone in the audience has learned as well. And by the looks of those polls, you've really transformed in this past hour or so. So I'm glad it's been really useful. Please do, as we sort of wrap up a little bit here, drop a comment, and please do join me in thanking the guests as well. And thanks all to you as well for staying with us and really, being really engaging, giving us loads of questions, loads of comments. Really do love that and appreciate that. So thank you so much. Miranda and Sophie, just before we wrap up, is there anything else at all that you want to share? Thank you so much for the thank yous. Is there anything that you want to share just that we haven't covered, or any final words that you think you'd like to get out, or have we got it all covered?
I certainly think from my perspective, we covered it all. I think we actually covered a lot of ground. So thank you guys for your brilliant questions, because they were fabulous. And from the quality of those questions, I'm sure you're all going to do absolutely brilliantly through this process. So we wish you the best of luck. Please don't forget that they're not ogres, that they're really there to support you and get the best out of you on the day, those assessors. So you'll be great.
Yeah, just for those that are joining tomorrow, hopefully I might see one of you, because I'll be assessing tomorrow. So I'm very excited. Best of luck with it all. And yeah, just thank you so much, Toby and Lola, for inviting Miranda and I this evening.
No problem at all. And best of luck as well for any assessment centre, and also the BT assessment centres coming up. If you've not yet applied, there's still a chance to do that. The window is closing though, so please do get to those applications. You'll see a link at the top of the chat that we've pinned there to all the roles. Please do check those out, and you'll be getting emails from us over the coming days and weeks as well. More on BT, more on the roles as well. So hope everyone enjoyed that session. Please do feel free to drop me an email if you have any feedback at all. And otherwise, best of luck. And like I guess I said, go out and do that. You can be confident and feel that you can go and get these roles. So all best of luck. Amazing. So we leave it there.
Thank you.
Yeah, let's leave it there. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Miranda.